I have found that a lot of young people and I mean, I'm actually and older folks that are trying to define purpose, it is such a crippling
Oh,
concept
I get
to
stuck there because I'm going to choose the wrong purpose, or
yeah,
I already did choose the wrong
yeah.
purpose. So now what am I going to do?
So I think in that, to me, it's too singular of a concept, and also to define oneself by a single thing, to me, just like becomes very rigid. And so really, I have many purposes. I might
Mm,
even have infinite purposes.
hmm
And you never know what tiny like interaction you have that actually sets that off in motion,
Yeah.
right? And so I've had many purposes and will have more purposes and currently contain probably a bunch that I know of and don't know of.
Welcome back to Practically on Purpose, the show for high achievers who are ready to trade the gold star grind for a life that actually fits. I'm your host, Ali Canton, and today I'm sitting down with a bona fide Renaissance man, Errol King. He's an ex-Google creative technologist, game designer, Tai Chi devotee, and co-founder of the world-building studio Innergalactic. We'll explore how growing up the son of a Bronx corrections officer turned him into an extreme hobbyist who's determined to get paid to do what he loves, even as that love keeps changing, why he treats purpose like a series of side quests instead of a single grand mission, the spiritual precepts that keep him grounded while prototyping with AI, and why anything that's built for healing just as easily can be weaponized. Altar building, basketball sore knees, 10 years of secret haiku, and other practices that tether him to joy. His vision for tech-enabled myth-making using storytelling, comics, and collaborative design to seed new, less dystopian futures. You know we need those. So if you've ever wondered how to keep reinventing yourself without losing your soul, or how to meld code, community, and consciousness into one messy, beautiful career, this conversation is for you.
Errol, my friend, I'm so happy that we're doing this. When I first started thinking about starting this podcast practically on purpose and thinking about people who contain multitudes and who are committed to regular self understanding and reinvention, like you were one of the first people that I thought of and are definitely a model for me of taking a
Oh
fresh
man. You didn't
attitude.
say we were gonna start out with some kind of what
I was
is
like,
this?
I don't have
Take
the
two.
I don't have the Kleenex, sorry. No, but really, you bring a lot of freshness and enthusiasm and joy and curiosity to life. So it's really exciting to me, yeah, to share some of that experience with the good people out there.
Thank you. And everything you said applies to you as well.
Oh,
So I think that's why we hang out.
yeah, that's why we're
That's why we hang out.
friends. You I think of as like a modern Renaissance man in terms of, you've got the whole technology passion to you, all that left brain stuff. You've also gone so deep in spirituality, which I want to talk about, in art, in movement, whether that's Tai Chi or basketball or, whatever other games you make up with your kids to spend the time. I'd be curious, like walk me through your life arc a bit, life and career arc.
Oh wow.
Um, because you're someone who's always reinventing and playing with life.
Yeah, yeah. It's a bit of in retrospect you can kind of make sense of it, but as it's unfolding, like uh so yeah, that's cool. I guess career arc. I have to go back to the beginning. My dad was a corrections officer, and also, well, before that he was like a recreation director at like the local boys and girls club community center. So, and my mom was also always working kind of like in community, became a bus matron. So they're just like, we're working with children. Then later on, he moved to corrections and in the Bronx. And I would say that I got to see kind of like my dad do one thing that was like his passion, and like he's like coordinating and doing events and everything's alive and people. And I grew up with like Mr. King, Mark's son. My first like
Mhm.
major collective identity is probably Mark's son. So there's that. But I also saw that kind of like transition into him taking on like a job that I didn't really get to see him in, but
Mhm.
like the images of it and the stories that came back were like, oh my God. And so, he always said, if you can figure out how to get paid to do what you love for a living, then you'll be a happy, successful person. And so that was like laid in pretty early. He also then got me my first job as a janitor, and he later told me that he told my boss, make him hate this job, right? Because he wanted me to feel like the pain of working a really difficult job at an early age, and say like, and look, people who like maintain facilities, I actually enjoyed it, regardless of like what I loved about was the people, right?
Yeah.
Like Sherman and Naldi and like June, like those guys, like we just, it was like, yeah, we were like cleaning, we're fixing stuff, we're doing all
Like
sorts
you're a
of things.
team.
Yeah, hey man, go get the coffee. Okay, 5 sugars and a light, like yeah. There's so many great stories. And so like I look at, and so anyway, so the seeds planted of like, figure out what you love to do and pursue that. And I would also say that like my parents were also constantly hustling. So like, I mean, this might be, whether it be like, selling t-shirts or like CDs, or like
Mhm.
there was definitely always a hustle
Always
going
an
on. Always
entrepreneurial
on
spirit.
entrepreneurial hustle,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So and within that, they required a bit of like just brute force learning and like play with the medium,
Yeah.
figure out what it does. We're talking pre-search and like, so it's not like you're like, oh, yeah, let me just look that up. No, you had to like just kind of do it.
Just try it
Just
out.
do it.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in the complex of those seeds coming together, I think for me, it's like, okay, get paid to do what I love for a living, but it turns out that what I love has changed a lot. And in order for you to love something, you have to give it a lot of time and attention
Mm.
and kind of like follow it through. And the worst case scenario is like you've gone on a really fun side quest. The best case scenario is like you have discovered a thing that you may want to do
Yeah.
for a period of time, for a long period of time, for the rest of your life.
Mm.
And so I would say like the wanderings, the changes of direction, probably represent chapters upon which I was just obsessed with a thing and wanting to see that through and trying to also get paid to do it. And so that started with, as an extension, like media. Um, uh, I was pretty good with computers pretty early on and had access to computers early on because I went to a boarding school, and a school that had a partnership with IBM. And so like in some ways, like I kind of got a little bit of the head of the curve. And so that's the entry point after taking the jobs that like my dad was hooking. I was like, okay, the first job that actually went and was a media job, editing videos, eventually graphic design. And it kind of like starts to reveal each other, right? It's like I'm doing graphic design and I'm like, oh, well, I want it to move. Okay, well, let me get into animation. Well, okay, well, I want to combine that with film. Okay, so and you just kind of keep opening up. Then at some point it's like, oh, yeah, well, you can put this on the web. Okay, that's interesting. Let me go down there. Oh, there's a programming language that controls this thing. What's that? Oh, now that I know some programming, like what is the world of programming, right? And what can I do with that? And that turns into games and interaction. And so like to some extent there is a bit of a like, it's just like working a medium and like seeing what's getting you excited and then just kind of slightly nudging and then always negotiating getting paid to do this. That's kind of the thing. Like I got paid as a graphic designer, I got paid as a video editor, I got paid as a photographer, I got paid as a videographer, I got paid as a web developer, I got paid as like a social media manager, I got paid at like, so I've done all of the jobs. And as that goes, then at some point you're like, I can manage a group of people that do
this thing.
and that represents a bit of the turning point. So the arc is my first like paid job was at Center for the Aging, and they wanted to do promotional. So I was doing stuff. I was going shopping for like abuelitas and just helping them out. But all right, what do you need? Okay, I'm gonna go. I'll get those things for you. I was opening mail and like just caring for the elderly and like in relationship. And then they were like, oh, well, maybe you could start to do some video of this. And I was like, cool, right? Because I'm like, hey, I do video. Well, maybe. And this is not a time where everybody had a phone or a.
No,
This is like
you got the cam.
Yeah, I'm like running around with the camcorder, and so that was like the break-in of like, okay, I took a job, they had a need, I kind of negotiated a way for them to like pay me to kind of make a thing I was interested in making. So we made a little promotional video for them. And that kind of, I just kind of kept taking that and flipping it. So then it was like, oh yeah, well, at my last job, I did media for them. And then it's like, oh, you do media? Okay, well, can you? So then I ended up at 1199 SEIU, the healthcare union.
Yeah.
And so like now I'm in a big company, very political, oriented,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of learnings there, and working with folks and the elders that were like, really pushing that forward, and the contemporaries that were coming up in that org. And I ended up in their media department, helping put together the like outreach materials, the communications, the brochures, the like call to action, the PEC funding, like all of that stuff is like designed. So, you know, I was like, hey, I can do some of this stuff. And then they started paying me. And I was like, why don't you bring me on full time as a graphic designer? So I was actually in that department. I was the first graphic designer in-house.
Wow. And you made your own position.
Yeah,
basically.
What happened was I saw the thing they were mailing, and me being like 19 and kind of an asshole, to be honest, I was like, you're going to mail this?
You're like, this sucks.
I would not open this. This is going right in the trash.
Yeah.
And my boss, he was like, you think you can do better? Like, kind of like, and I was like, word. And so I went home, I got a pirated copy of like Photoshop Illustrator. It took me like 3 days to download it.
Yeah.
I just
Napster.
Yeah, exactly. I was on IRC, like, download Photoshop, 12 hours. Mom, don't touch the phone.
Don't touch it.
And so I took that and then I just spent like 2 weeks trying to recreate the brochure. So I didn't try to make my own yet. It was just like, how did they do that? I had no training. So I'm just like, okay, boom. And I just spent countless hours making this thing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you're deep in tutorials.
Hey, oh my God, I'm like in it. I'm like in it. Reading.
Because this is also before YouTube, right?
This is purely like trial and error / like finding a dummies book.
Yes.
Like
that yellow book, like for dummies.
Photoshop for dummies. Yeah, sure, whatever, right? I'm taking whatever I can get my hands on. I'm going to Barnes & Noble. I'm buying stuff from Barnes & Noble. So I did the thing. I brought it back to him, and he goes, you made this? And he was like, not bad. And I was like, thank you. And then I saw something that kind of changed everything. Invoice came across the desk, and they spent, I think it was $50,000 for that brochure.
Wow.
And I was like, wait. I was like, it was like my brilliant, like beautiful mind. I was like, yeah, I was like, wait, if they're doing, and then these many go out. Now it's like they're making crazy money doing design, and they're using the same one over, just changing the colors and like swapping photos.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So I went back to him. I was like, yo, why don't you just hire me? And you literally will save like half your, like a ton of money. One of these will pay for me almost for a year. I'm living at home with my parents. 50K is like, we made it, baby. We made it.
Yeah. Also thinking about, first job, or I felt like if you got a 50K first job in what, 2006 to 2000.
20 years old, no degree.
No, yeah. You're like,
we did it. Mama, we did it.
Yeah.
Now whether or not I knew how to manage that money.
That's a different question.
So then I said, hey, will you pay for training? And I went to the School of Visual Arts, continuing education. I was like, okay, Photoshop. Let me actually like master. And that became the flywheel. Like, can I get the organization to pay for me to learn the thing that I really want to do right now? Because I've got infinite energy. I'm up at night. I'm like, and I got addicted to that.
Yeah.
I got addicted to like learning the new medium that was coming out, and I just kind of stayed on that, and it went from like media into like legit like programming. A few years later, next you know, I'm like, they're paying for me to do like object oriented programming, and like I'm like trying to figure out like how we use these tools, and the media and the IT stuff started to kind of merge.
So it converged for you actually at a very early point.
It did.
Yeah.
They were never different. Like the computer science, the images of computer science were not in my mind.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like natural. And in fact, the first like programming course that I really like willingly took and was like, oh my God, was by this guy named Joshua Davis, who is an artist, but he was a beautiful programmer. But his course was like, all right, open up file 94 and folder F, and you would open it and it'd be like some like weird like accordion thing on the screen. And then you touched it and it would like move like it was underwater.
Oh wow.
And he'd be like, all right, look inside. And it'd be like 6 lines of code. And you'd be like, yo, what?
You're like, how
that's
did you
all he
do
did.
that?
That's all he did. He wrote all these little like UI modules based on names.
Almost,
And then there was just like tiny bits of code. And so you'd go in and he'd be like, try to understand what's going on here. We talk about it. He'd be like, make it do something different. And so you get in and you're like trying to, and you're getting a feel. And for me, that was a very like tactile way of entering into computer science. And kind of like I went through the back door. And then after that, I was like, oh, I want to learn it more formally. And then that kind of like takes me down that trajectory. So
So just to pause there
Yeah.
for a moment, there's a few things that jump out to me about your story. First off, it's interesting. You were almost at the very beginning defining purpose, but taking, again, so much more of like a modular and flexible approach to that than I think that a lot of people think about it. So you're saying, to try to find something that you enjoy doing for some period of time. I think that so many people, myself included, put so much weight, like, what is my purpose?
Yeah,
As if it is one thing,
yeah.
and then I'm going to pour my whole self into that thing or into expressing that thing forevermore. And, what's interesting just hearing you talk about, track so far up until this point and just knowing you is that it seems to me that you almost view purpose as, I don't know why I want to go to a video game place, but like as a series of quests, as a series of like, here's a mission, should you choose to accept it? And it being something like, yeah, like that sounds cool.
In hindsight, you could package it this way. As it's happening, at the end of the day, I'm an extreme hobbyist.
Okay.
It's really just, is Errol feeling this? Do I find myself thinking about it in the shower?
Yeah.
Has this thing that I've interacted with, like, is it starting to like show up and make me want to go? I follow my body, right? So, there's times I'll be sitting and I'll just be like chilling somewhere. And I'm like, I want to code right now. It's like food.
That's so interesting.
It becomes a food, or I want to design. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a period of time where all I'm doing is like, and that carried into games. Like I'd be sitting somewhere, be at dinner with somebody, and a game will pop in my hand. I'll be like, and I'll just like,
Float.
and so, the quest, there's not a moment where I'm like touching the UI and accepting the quest. The quest is just like finding it's just showing itself.
The quest is revealing itself to you.
It's continuous. I can look back and note these changes, but as it's unfolding, really, I'm just like, what am I interested in? Like, what is grabbing my attention?
Yeah.
And in the grabbing of the attention, do I feel that I'm bringing, and this is where the 1199 like stuff comes in, the union is like, am I helping the world? That's where it got a little bit heavier. So back to the purpose thing. I have found that a lot of young people, and I mean, I'm actually, and older folks that are trying to define purpose, it is such a crippling concept.
Oh, I get stuck there because I'm going to choose the wrong purpose, or I already did choose the wrong purpose. So now what am I going to do?
So I think in that, to me, it's too singular of a concept. And also to define oneself by a single thing, to me, just like becomes very rigid. And so really, I have many purposes. I might even have infinite purposes. And you never know what tiny like interaction you have that actually sets that off in motion.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've had many purposes and will have more purposes, and currently contain probably a bunch that I know of and don't know of.
Yeah. So we'll probably end up going somewhere weird either in this podcast to the next podcast because I'm already like, okay, this feels real fractal, and it's like, okay, one decision point and then universes unfolding.
It is,
right?
Man. It gets 4D fast. It gets 4D really fast, man. It's like, damn. So yeah, I think it's just kind of not trying to get trapped. I do spend a lot of time in these existential spaces, and I have also no problem. And I have friends who are like, yo, you're weird in this way. I have no problem going back to a cornerstone and destroying it. A few times in my life, I'm like,
no sacred cows.
No sacred, like, I thought these things were my purpose. Smash this pillar, add this pillar, because actually I have found that maybe this is no longer.
Yeah.
And I'm totally cool with like that transition, and it takes time to move through those fundamental pillar shifts. But there are times where I've just been like, all right, like this has exhausted itself in some way. I see, and actually there's a thing calling me over there, and I'm and the pain of separation from a thing that I've you're like,
yeah, you've been so deep into.
I think I kind of have a timer that goes off. That's a little bit like, all right, if it's not in the category of like the Eternals, Tai Chi is an eternal for me, right? I'm gonna practice Tai Chi till I die. I know that.
Yeah.
I can't undo that now. In some way, there are a few of those that I'm just like, those are practices, but maybe that's it. That's it. I don't really see like the so like purpose thing is like, but practices. What are the practices that I am actively curating at
Mhm.
any point in time? I feel like the process of unfolding, discovering practices, engaging in practices, deepening in them, letting them go, or even starting a practice and going, no, actually, that's not it.
That's
Really
not
quick.
for me. Yeah.
I think that's the thing that in time I'm like curating is like, what are the practices that I have in relation to each other that make a kind of a multitude constellation of being that I'm enjoying, feels impactful,
Mm.
feels balanced, feels like sustainable, and all
Mhm.
those things. And somewhere in there, that's just a constant negotiation.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's really about like those are some of the fundamentals of how you spend your time or what you dedicate your life or your
yeah,
energy to. And I'd be curious with those practices. Like to me, a practice suggests something, it's a practice, right? It's something that you do, you apply energy to on a regular basis. Do you have an outcome in mind
I
around your
used to.
practices?
I used to. I try to. Some practices like are really slippery about how they become outcomes. They just accumulated because they're just like, oh man, this feels right. I enjoy doing it. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, a practice to me is like a thing that I is a habit that I am actively forming
Mhm.
that I believe like, yeah, maybe I have some expectation around like how it may transform me. And sometimes it is output based. So I've been writing haiku, for instance, for 10 years. Never shared any, like, I just got a little doc that I've been carrying. Like, literally, it's like
Wow.
Google Photos. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, and
That one. Mhm.
I know exactly where I am when I write each one
Mm.
because that's kind of the
Mhm.
right. So it's a practice. Sometimes I go out of practice, I come back, but it feels like a thing that will just always be. And then there are times when it is like I can see I'm like, oh, that's a hike. This is it. I'm in one right now.
You're like, "I'm in a haiku." Yeah.
And the output, I'm like, I enjoy doing it. Hard stop. Is there an anthology at some point? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Mhm.
Could I like that? That's fun. Could it just be that my kids, loved ones, go through my
Mm.
files one day
Be like, "Wait, dad did that whole"
and dad apparently was writing like haiku,
Yeah.
right? I'm cool with all of those. It
Mhm.
doesn't really matter.
Mm.
But when I write a haiku, I feel good.
So you do it for that. So haiku, tai chi,
Tai Chi.
what are some of your other
Um, this one's gonna hurt me. I play ball. I play basketball.
basketball,
I'm from the
okay.
Bronx, man. It's
Mhm.
really hard for me to walk by a basketball court and there are
And, like,
people on
not
it and
yeah.
not like want to engage. I
Mhm.
feel like that one, but that one's gonna cost me a lot. That
It's
one's
already
gonna
cost
cost me a
you,
lot.
what, knees, hips?
I feel like right now Zazen's a practice.
Zazen is so
Sitting
for our audience, yep.
meditation. Yeah,
Mhm.
sitting meditation. And I would say off and on, cooking with love. It's a
Mm.
practice. And yeah, I don't creative solutioning with people that I love is like a thing. I do feel like not a day goes by where there's some either like random phone call, email, or interaction that leads to some sort of like imaginative speculation around
Mm.
things. And that might be spiritual, that might be technological, that might be political. Like, I just feel like that is like a like one of the base level processes that comes up is just like
Yeah.
imagination and creativity of like, oh, that could be,
It's like
uh,
something that you're attracted to or those situations tend to find their way to you.
yeah, at this point, there's enough of a karmic aeration that like I feel like there are people that are like, oh, I got this thing in my. I mean, I should call it like text
Yeah.
Errol, and so I have the pleasure of sort of like engaging in like collective imagining. I feel like these are practices.
Mm. Mhm. So I wanna talk a little bit more about collective imagining in a bit because I think that that relates a lot to the work that you're doing
Mm,
now at Intergalactic, but before we get there, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your time at Google
mm,
and especially your work most recently in the AI space.
okay.
And I feel like you had was it creative designer or something? You had a title that I'd never seen.
Creative technologist.
Creative
Oh
technologist.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
tell me, what is a creative technologist?
okay, good. So towards the end of my time at the union, I started to realize that the organization itself didn't really want to advance technology inherently. It's
Mm,
using it to its means, that's the right position for them.
for a union, yeah.
And I also started to realize that I was like, oh man, like the youth, the next generation, like I need to connect with youth. And so I started thinking about how media engages with them, and games was coming up a lot for me. And I started like designing games and studying, researching games, hanging out with game designers, going to meetups. I was like, this was my new. And games to me represented like these strange imaginative things that we step into
Yeah.
that allow us to reimagine our identities, our behavioral schemas, experiment and simulate with various strategies that have like seemingly that have implications, but in real world they don't. So it's like
It's funny. It almost sounds like this is perfect for you. Like when you think about it, like, all right, let me just try out stepping into a new world for a moment. That feels like something that you enjoy doing regularly, but then imagining, okay, now with the game,
it's infinite.
it's infinite and, there's no real lasting consequences.
Except that there is.
Okay.
Except that there is. And this is actually the underside of the word game, is that people have a sense of frivolousness.
For game.
But it turns out, this is my take, games shape us deeply. And the games that we play consciously and unconsciously, I'll get to that in a second, but the games that we consciously play will prime us with unconscious ways in which we will interact with future interactions that resemble the game metaphorically. So if you grow up in a culture where sports, which is a simulation of war, the board games you play are simulations of war,
Yeah.
video games you play are simulations of war, then when you encounter a discussion with somebody
And some tension
and
or conflict arises. Yeah.
you will start to do the thing where you're like, okay, where have I seen this before? The brain's gonna do that. You don't have to cut; it will just snap into place, and then you say, "This is a battle." The metaphor of it being a battle is that it begins to enact on how you engage with it.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to retreat. Maybe I should advance. Maybe I should give out a decoy. Maybe there should be a flank.
Yeah.
Right? Let's nuke this shit. Right? And so thus the metaphor of game makes its way back into the way that you enact in the world.
And it's interesting just thinking about, different corporate environments that we've worked in, right? And it's like at the end of the day, we're just creating a technology or just serving up an ad or whatever. And to imagine that something as brutal as war, right, makes its way into just how we solve even like the most mundane problem. It's like a joke, but it's like you can imagine in our culture, it's like you could have a battle of the hot dog stands where like you set up yours across the street from mine, and the next thing you know.
Or it could be the hot dog coalition. We are the coalition of hot dog. That's, to me, that subtle shift of like the metaphor you stick in there changes the relationality between the beings experiencing. And not everybody is using the same metaphor. Right? So that's and then you get these incongruences. So I started to get into games because I was like, kids love games. Games inherently teach because you have to do, then you get a feedback loop. That's literally the definition of learning. So I was like, you've got learning in here, you've got dynamics, you have play, fun. So intrinsic motivation is there. And the goal for me was like, and I will put a programming language inside of this game, and the game will teach the programming language so that the player can become the guy.
Oh, cool.
That was the premise of beta. And it was called Hidden Level Games because it was essentially like, if you play this is some egotistical. If you play this game, it will have you go into a thing and then realize that the game has rules and you can write and rewrite those rules. That was what I wanted people to have, that experience.
Yeah.
And so that was the game. And then that was the software. I was like, oh, I'm managing a software now. We have game, we have design. But Patrice was on there, Christian, Fazal, like they were a bunch, like we kind of, and so that kind of like took me kind of really into computer science, because then we're talking about writing a programming language.
Wow. A whole new, so you weren't going to just use.
We wrote a language.
Okay. So you wrote a language.
Wow.
Okay.
Because we were like, how would a 10-year-old want to express this idea, right? Instead of forcing them into a more like sort of universal syntax, we did borrow from languages that were emerging and kind of dominant. So it wasn't like a full jump. We were definitely giving you some of the tools.
It's almost like a dialect.
It is a dialect. Yeah. Like, hey, learn this dialect and like you can really have fun in this game world. And so we wrote this language from scratch and the compiler and kind of like situated it inside, and it was a good time. So that kind of like bridged me towards computer science, and then eventually went to Google and there worked on computer science education through Code Next and underrepresented groups, and building culture around media and computer science and products, and pathways through high school, middle school, high school, and into university. Was sort of spent time doing that. And then, all of that then kind of put me into Google Creative Lab. And they're, to be honest, for a persona like me who just likes weird new things and challenges and working with fun people, it was like being in the Willy Wonka factory.
That's so funny. I was like kid in the candy
It's
shop.
crazy.
That I was about to say that.
You got everybody who does everything: filmmakers, editors, animators, computer scientists, designers,
Wow.
writers. Like, it's like the full spectrum, like the Justice League of like, creative, weird sort of like sensibilities combined with like projects outside of Google and inside Google, and trying to kind of create this weird sort of like marriage of like narrative and future imagining. And yeah, that's where the creative technology comes about, because it's not just about sitting and like writing code, and it's not just about like speculation detached. It's a bit of like, as a technologist, I get access maybe to like a new thing, and I don't know yet how people are going to use it. And so it kind of goes back to, do I develop this obsession over this like thing, and I start playing with it, and I'm like, questions are coming up, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should talk to that person. And then next, that thing just starts to turn into like, hey, check this out. Oh, that's cool. Let me put a design on, like,
Yeah.
and it just starts to kind of make itself by you like playing with it and staying open and trying things. And so that's what, to me, that's like, it's like a near term speculative creative, right? Who's looking at like the zeitgeist, what's emerging, what the world needs or wants to see, and what you want to see. And then you just kind of like, you like doula that shit.
Yeah, that's what I
like,
was
Yeah.
thinking of, the doula, or also I was getting the image of a sculptor. Right?
Yeah.
Like you're in front of the piece of marble, but like what wants to be revealed.
And so in the AI space, so there's that, like, in the machine learning like time, it was like, it's like you have these models, they can classify things. What do we want to do with that? You can find these patterns, or it generates. And then as we went further on, we worked with Devotee Jones with body movement stuff. So we're looking at like, models on body movement. And then when the GPTs came out, that was the new frontier, right? Like, all right, what do we do with language? What do we do with, what is the UI for that? What is it going to do? What can it do? What shouldn't it do? What might people want it to do? What are its limitations? And then you have that for image as well. And so like, I spent a lot of time in that space wrestling with these things. And even after I left Google, like, these were like deep contemplations, because I'm like, oh, there's something big is coming here.
Yeah.
As like someone who's like constantly kind of feeling like the size of things, I was like, oh, this is different.
This is like a big.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
And reading the papers on these things and knowing the researchers who wrote the papers and just trying to like make sense of it all. That was kind of like where it all kind of led, was like, just mediums just kept becoming more and more and more and more complex.
Yeah.
And then, you're like, oh, okay, cool. What do we do with this now?
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear your perspective, because it feels like, these GPTs and generative AI, it feels like so much more is possible now, even than a few months ago, right? In terms of people being able to scale their impact in the world, rightly or wrongly. I guess this is like where the ethical piece comes in. I'd just be curious to hear from your perspective, like, what are you most, I know that you were playing around with GPTs for a while, training them for all sorts of fun stuff like acupuncture and weird things. I'd be curious to hear, like, what are you most excited about, or what are you most curious about?
Yeah,
You can take the emotional charge out.
it has been, and then it got dark and cool.
Yeah.
Like the wind, it was like,
It just got really cool and dark. Yeah.
Coming out, I was just curious. I was like, what can this thing do? And I did try a bunch of different things: multi-agent stuff, conversational stuff, dialogue-based things, consensus decision-making. So I worked in some like abstract space of like, what happens if you create multiple things and they talk to each other? Do you arrive at a higher point of understanding? What does it mean to take a few of them, have them do a creative sort of thing? Or can you go into worlds, right? Like, can you actually use it to do world building and be able to simulate situations that you haven't really been in before? What comes with that? And I kind of got a little bit, I think on the ethical stuff, I was like, let me hit the brakes on this actually. So I kind of like dialed it down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Using it for just regular daily tasks and like little things here and there. But I kind of stopped building because I wanted to I was stuck. I was kind of stuck because I felt like there was an ethical dimension that I was not necessarily fully embodying. And I also had this issue where I was like, I don't, as a doula, you don't always know how that being will show up in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so what does it mean to steward? What does it mean to steward? And I think that the stewardship now has a completely different connotation than almost anything I had done before a bit because of the sort of like quick effects that I think that GPTs have when they generalize and accomplish tasks that humans have done or whatever, right? So I was like, I don't know. Also, I just almost any technology has a dark side, a shadow,
Yeah.
right?
Like humans.
Classic
Right.
stick, boom, walking stick, a pointing object, and I can murk
And
somebody
a
with this
weapon.
thing,
Yep.
all with imagination.
Yeah.
The point of view changes the technology. So for that, I was like, anything that I make for healing is also a thing made for killing.
Yeah.
And that put me to like a, oh God, whoa, hold on one second.
Yeah. You're like, am I actually ready for this?
And so I went, this is where, I kind of went down the Zen path or Zen pulled me, I don't know, whatever, it's whatever. When you saw this unfold,
I saw
you
it in real
watched
time.
this,
Yeah.
and I think what it offered was a sort of framework for ethics.
Mm.
That's really what I was in search of there, was like, all right, these people seem like they have maybe some kind of like 2,500 years of like trying to work through ethics and a
Yeah.
way of being. Let me see if there's something here. And the precepts showed up. And then I'm like, okay. And I took a few, I've been studying the precepts. And for me, that was like, after kind of like waiting in that a bit, it gave me a bit more confidence to go, "Oh, okay, actually, I can probably situate myself in a place where I can try to increase the amount of awareness I have around its implications and some of the lenses that I need to put
Yes.
on when I make something now, such that as it goes out into the world, I'm at peace with how it unfolds.
Yeah.
And knowing that I can't control that. That's the thing. I had to come to terms like I can't control with what a thing that
Once
I
it's
can
out
become.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all you know is your intention in offering it. And then, yeah, I imagine collateral that you put around it. But then also, I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about embodiment and, just the energy that each of us
Yeah.
brings to a problem. So even when you talk about what you create with other people, it's both the intention that you have, but then like how do you show up in describing it, and then what does that inspire or
Yeah.
trigger
Yeah.
in other people?
It's about the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being in conversation. And that's what I took from the precepts was like, these aren't rules. These are contemplations. So I'm carrying with me not a bunch of rules that's like, yes, no.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I'm observing a thing. Let me feel it through this lens
Yeah.
and see that it's probably both and sort of like, and come to terms and be in dialogue with other people about this lens.
Yeah.
And then there's a few of them that, you try to kind of keep. And then in that, then you start to maybe see around the bend a little bit. And then you can just try to like prepare it and set forms around how it is created. And I think that that's been a really beautiful unfolding, is like collective creation that is like creative, ethical, and also kind of like futuristic. What does creative, profitable, impactful, and joyous creative process look like
Yeah.
as a model of way of being?
And it's interesting because I think that, to your point earlier, talking about Google and like feeling into the zeitgeist, into the energy of the moment, I think that there's a lot of people who, when they think about AI and they think about the world that, might unfold, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of sense of like scarcity. There's a lot of sense of exacerbated division. So I think that that's almost like one possible path that gets energized with people's thoughts and concerns around it. And I am also seeing a lot of people just like you who are getting so excited about the possibility of human creativity, collaboration, and with like a joyful, like, communal bent to the whole thing. I think that, the pendulum has swung so much to atomization that I think we're ready for the pendulum to swing back. But I just wanted to share that what you were saying, it's like I am hearing that from so many different places. Like people want to be part of groups. People want to be collaborating and working together. And like that may be the counterweight to all of this fear.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, look, there will be harms.
And that's life. Life is
That
harms
there will
too,
be harms,
right?
and I think there will be beautiful new things that come about. And those things that come out don't have to be because of AI, but it could just be a response to just the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, actually, we do want to kind of, oh, actually, I do spend a lot of time feeling like I'm in, the matrix and everything is, and I just want to be back in my body. Or like I do, we're in a little bit of a bubble, right? Like we travel and
Mm-hmm.
we insulate ourselves sometimes to be around people that will reinforce that. So I have to recognize that we're also in a reality. I think on this, my big, um, so there's the process, which you talked about, and then I think there's the mythology
Mm.
or the mandala, right? And I think that's where the intergalactic work is coming from, is this question around this sort of world we inhabit right now is the collective imagining, the emergence of the collective imagining of all of the like mythologies through book, media, story, narrative, archetypes that get projected all over the place
Mm-hmm.
and repeated and memeified.
Yeah.
And that has the possibility of like pointing the collective imagination in a direction. And I kind of feel like we got a little into dystopic stuff because it's sold well in Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, and sure, we need to see that. But also, I think we need new mythologies. I think we need to like, and maybe this is where AI can help, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe this is just where human imagining helps. At the end of the day, it's like I think we need a new set of stories that we can enact. As a creative technologist, you are a part of the science fiction to science continuum,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
the old story of like the communicator in Star Trek is like, he spoke to somebody who wasn't there. Oh, there was no wire, right? The Jetsons, like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
grandma, how you
Right.
doing? We were like, damn, that's gonna be crazy. Imagine doors opening by themselves. I mean, these were
Yeah.
all just like the imaginations of people that were like, I don't know, what would make, and then somebody
That sounds
goes,
good.
can that
We
happen?
do that.
Can we do that?
Mhm.
And so I think that the can we do that, that the Moore's law is making the imagining and the can we do that come closer and closer together.
Mhm.
And so we need interesting and different ways of projecting into what we make, how we are, so that the imaginings of the experiences of future can live into some of these. And so I think for me right now, it's like when I think about AI, I can't in my Tai Chi training, it's like I can't disconnect. And Zen, right? We don't brush things away. It's like you stick onto it. You don't get caught. You don't like become consumed by it, but you also don't detach. I'm trying to find that middle space of like
Mm.
I'm engaging with the medium to learn and discover and share, and I'm also trying to see what limitations my imagination has collectively around how it could be, and are there ways that we could imagine different. And so that's intergalactic is all about world building, storytelling through in art, comics, filmmaking, like these sorts. Like that's where I'm like, okay, let's go there,
Yeah.
and start writing the story.
And who are your clients? Or
Yeah,
who are you excited to work with?
clients right now, uh, we have like gaming companies. We have nonprofit organizations. Actually, three of our, our like big projects right now are nonprofits, but they're like art-based nonprofits.
Mm.
So they
Mhm.
have, like it's like they have and the model is work on stuff you care about with people you want to work with, in collaboration with clients that you support. Like there's
Yeah.
alignment there, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's kind of the vibe. So arts organizations that are doing interesting things in the realm of like archive, like bringing archives forward
Mm.
is sort of like
Mhm.
a thing. And how do you do that
Mm.
artfully, respectfully, as ritual,
Yeah.
as as like collective remembering, and also like bringing the past into the present. So when we do the projection of the new mythologies, like we're bringing is AI as artificial intelligence and AI as ancestral intelligence, right?
Mm.
So it's the continuum of these things
Yes.
and the intelligence of now that like we're trying to figure out like what is the creative way that we bring those stuff.
Bring it
So
together.
arts organizations, nonprofits, product like startups and products as well, who are either have a product and are like, we are trying to like tell a new story or build a world around this product.
Mm.
That's
Mhm.
another thing. It's like we have a product, we have a character, but like how does that turn into a comic book, or what is the what?
Like, where does this go?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And in there, then you have to dig into, well, what's the ethos? What's the basis of like, why did what is the spiritual and philosophical underpinning of this organization character design, so then we can make sure that whatever world we build around it of artifacts and spaces and relationships and narratives, that it ties back to that thing. So, yeah, so mythology, imagination, and supporting these types of organizations that have like good, clear mission, good people, and are like got a foot in tech, but aren't like tech obsessed. I think that's kind of like the thing that I find is like kind of the sweet spot. Is like you're like, I'm cautiously optimistic about AI, and both of those are, I might even be a little bit more cautious. And I think, but I'm willing to look at what it can do.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the sweet spot, because at least you've got a nice like balanced sort of polarity.
Yes.
As opposed to like a gung ho, like, yo, we need to, we got
people are like all in right now, and they're like, how do we AI the hot dog stand? Like, how do we AI whatever? And it just like,
chill, man. It's all good. So I think those are the clients. That's the sort of vibe. And then, yeah, man, we pull together really cool creative teams to work on these projects. It's a bit of a bespoke kind of like, there's a core group, but there's like, oh, okay, they need that. All of the folks that we work with in our times, we're like, hey, let's pull the Avengers together for this.
like assemble your dream team.
It's like, boom, this is the group. Okay.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
It's fun, man. It's fun.
All right. So actually want to move to our rapid fire.
Oh, I didn't know that there was a rapid fire session.
Yeah, get ready. What is one, and I'm already like regretting asking this question because I feel like there's going to be like 10,000 of these. What's one book or teacher that's really shaping how you're thinking about building and leading at Intergalactic?
Okay, recency bias. I am currently reading The Dharma of Natural Systems. The second title to the book is like Dependent Co-arising and General Systems Theory. It is like the most crazy. It's like the perfect.
Yeah, it's like the perfect book.
Yeah. It's like full on science, like general systems theory, mathematical kind of like thinking of like how have we formulated this world of system, how we view the world through systems. And then on the other side, it's like, the Dharma would also be over here, but it also shows how general systems theory is a juxtaposition of classical Western thinking, binary logic, like, and so it kind of in that, but at the end of the book, it gets into organizations, morality, sort of like collective karmic dynamics, and the ways that groups function, and what is Sangha building through that lens, and what is science through these lenses. And so I think that that book right now is doing it for me.
Yeah.
And also, like, I was reading the book the other night, having exclamations, and wifey was like, oh, what's up? And I was like, oh, you gotta read this. And then I looked it up, and the next day I was hanging with somebody, and they're like, oh, Joanna Macy, she passed away yesterday. And I was like, oh. As I'm finishing the last pages of this book, I'm like, yo, this is it. And then I'm like, and so I was just like sitting there, they're like, damn, yo, like while I was having like a full on like Joanna Macy like moments, I'm like, oh man, this woman, like she cracked the code.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, okay, boom. Thank you. Shout out to Joanna Macy. Never met you, but your book is fire.
Oh, that's amazing. She's responding. The bell's she said, I hear you.
See? Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. This is a perfect segue. What is something that you once thought was woo that you now swear by? Or at least for you, I'd say that now seems at least like provisionally true for the moment.
Woo.
Yeah, something that was woo kind of out there that now feels true.
All right, the first one that came to mind was altar building. I've come to love altar building now. I also, in some ways, realized that I maybe have been always altar building, but was in denial. I get it from my grandmother, Abuelita, love you, Nilda. You go into her house and, you go in and it's like there's that one area where it's like candles, santos, Buddha, Krishna, like she had
everything.
She was like,
already. She was on top of it.
I'm taking the luck. I'm taking luck from anybody who's giving it out. Like she's like, and
she put her chips on all the numbers.
Yeah. She would play her numbers. She'd like, my mom was still called. She's like, your grandmother calls me and she's like, play this number, So I grew up kind of being like, this is kind of strange.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, and for a while I was like, nah, bro, no like religious artifacts in my house. I'm good. And I think within the last like year or two, I've like strangely come around to like collecting things that people have given me, various spiritual figures and things from nature that I just think are beautiful. And I'm just like, yeah, totally should be doing this. It's beautiful. I love it.
That's great. And I guess as we close, what advice would you give to someone who is dreaming up a new future for themselves?
Do it with your whole body as you project. So the body's mind body is one. That's usually the one that people think about. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna like, let me just use my brain.
Yeah.
So it's mind body, heart body. I think of body, like all the organs, all like just like the emotions. You feel these things, right? So as you think of futures and you enact them, your body will have these. If you pay attention, your body will kind of give you a couple of nudges around things and feelings, and it's a slower process. You just gotta listen. The body, the bigger body is the spiritual body, right? So like there's. I know this is another woo thing. This is another, I think there's messages all over the place all the time, and not on some like weird like I'm seeing, it's like just little nudges,
Yeah.
things that you just notice or whatever. I think those matter. And that's and then I think the body is also the collective people around you and reflecting and being in touch with people and being and sharing and opening your heart to people like, yo, actually, this is what I'm feeling is that openness gives you authentic reflection.
Yes.
And then I think the last bit is then like do that over time. So in a few times when I made my pivots, I'll just like get up, write my name in the middle of a sheet, whatever, which is super egotistical. Maybe I'll do it differently. But then I start building the branches like, all right, family, and this and then these are, and this is what makes you feel and work. And like, and I start to like build my web.
Yeah.
I kind of create a web, a mind map or whatever, a scatter plot of like, not scatter plot, but like of like my world in that moment.
Yeah.
And then I do that like a couple of, recurring. And then what happens is that when you start to look back at them and you start like, switching between them and looking, you start to see the things that actually matter to you.
The stuff that shows up.
Yeah. It's going to show up. It's consistent.
Yeah.
And so if you do this over a period of time, you'll start to see really what's coming up and what's actually like a momentary trend. And that to me gives me a little bit of like that longitudinal space of imagining. And so that's how I have, I can't, this is not necessarily advice, but it's like, that's how I have practiced in like turning the next chapter. And then the last bit on that is claim it for it's real. So, in each of these transitions, graphic designer, film, as long as I did one, I would call myself, I made one piece, I'm a graphic designer.
You've done it. Yeah.
I make a game, I'm a game designer.
Yeah.
And even if I'm like, I've like made prototypes of stuff, it's still an identity because I'm in the practice of doing it. So once you begin to practice authentically, you can claim that identity. And once you claim the identity and you share that with people, it becomes real.
It's so funny you say that because it's like the moment that I started describing myself as a podcaster, which felt super weird, but I was like, you know what? I've done a couple episodes. Like that's real. And I actually had an old colleague from my law firm reach out to me last week because he's like, oh, you're a podcaster. I want to pick your brain about how to start a podcast.
Like,
and I was like, actually, I could tell you a couple. I don't know if I'm doing it right, but like I could tell you a couple of things. And I think that very often we're waiting for, or some of us are waiting for people to like give us the title. Here is your certificate of being, whatever it is. I think you're right. Like we need to claim that for ourselves and we do it with integrity. When we've done it once, right? Like we can do it with integrity.
Yeah.
I'm not claiming to be a master. I'm just claiming I've done it.
It's a thing that I do.
Yes. It's a practice.
It's a practice. And I think that's it for me is like, once it feels like I'm in a practice, then it becomes a bit of identity that I'm not like, but it's like, yeah, I can open that up a little bit and sort of like see what it means to hold that a little bit and also share and see who else is in that space. And that just starts to build that. So that, I think that's the practice, the personal practice. And, it's a fun process to reinvent, to be in motion, to be a process.
Yeah. We too are processes.
I'll leave you with this book. All right. Second book, weird book. I seem to be a verb. The title alone is like, was the whole book really. But I'm like, I hadn't even considered up until the point in encountering this that I may not be a noun. And so you know what I mean? Like it's like that is just like boom. I'm in a continuous event. There's also freedom in there.
Yeah. I talked about this actually on my first or second episode of the podcast with my friend Glenn DeVore, and he was like claiming his identity as a writer and how heavy that felt. But then he was like, well, I write. That is something that I do. And like, that's much easier to relate to. And then we also talked about how, and you speak Spanish too, like in Spanish, people use verbs
Yeah,
a
yeah,
lot more
yeah.
than they use nouns. I also wonder if there's like a little bit of like, I'm not an expert in NLP, but it does seem like there is something in neurolinguistic processing of
Oh,
how we describe ourselves and then feeling like, oh, if it's fixed, then it's that thing up on the hill that I have to be the best at before I can claim it.
that's, I mean, I think that what you're talking about is is that tightening,
Yes.
that tightening
Yes.
that occurs as you're like trying to make sense of this thing, right? And that like young, even, I mean, even later, it's like you're laid into this identity or these set of identity and what it means, and everything's so heavy and it's like cling, cling, cling. I feel like it took me a long time to start to like let go of some of that like
Mm,
neurosis and anxiety, quite frankly, around
yeah.
like who I am, what's my title, what's my bio, what's like, and it's yeah, sorry, yeah, it's a challenge, but I think just have fun, man.
Mm.
Enjoy the process and be in a relationship and have good friends that maybe do podcasts and they call you over and you hang out and
Hanging out in the back.
get some sun and you look at the dog.
Yeah, it's perfect. Well, I think that's the perfect note to end on, Errol. Thank you so much. If people want to find you, want to find Intergalactic, engage with your work, where should they go?
Intergalactic. So it's
Inner.
Innergalactic,
Mhm.
INNER, galactic.x. I'm lame, so I'm on LinkedIn right now.
Don't hate on LinkedIn.
I'm just saying,
on LinkedIn. I like
the
LinkedIn.
cool kids ain't doing LinkedIn no more, man. But that's an easy way to find me. But yeah, either way
Okay.
works. Thank you so much for having me. It was
Yeah.
a pleasure to just say some random stuff.
Share some time
Share
and
some great,
space.
share some time and space. These were beautiful questions, so and a beautiful day.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.